Hey guys, how you doing? It's Will here, back for another fight card prediction. I'm going to break down UFC Fight Night 50 from the Foxwoods Resort Casino in Connecticut. This event is taking place next Friday night. Tomorrow night is UFC 177 from Sacramento. I finished work about 2 hours ago. I came home to watch the weigh-ins, had no idea about what had happened, and Henan Barao has been pulled from his match against TJ Dillashaw, and Joe Soto, who was supposed to face Anthony Burchak on the undercard, gets brought up to the main card in the main event, and that card has taken a hit as well. Henry Cejudo got pulled from his match. He couldn't make weight either, so a weird one there for UFC 177. Only 8 fights on there. Barao should win fairly convincingly now. I think Danny Castillo will beat Tony Ferguson. So UFC Fight Night 50. Oh, on the card as well, go to Kingdom MMA. You will find my bets. They may have changed a little now with a couple of the fights getting scratched, but go and check out Kingdom MMA for all your MMA needs. Some great guys over there, and my bets are on there. I had 2 winning bets last week in Tulsa. Let's see if I can keep the momentum going this week. See, this card's quite interesting considering Bellator are running a card on the same night in Connecticut, which is they're about 10 miles between the two venues, so it's very interesting. And this is a very good fight card. This is probably the best UFC Fight Night card since the one they had in Boston last year. And it's headlined by Jacare Souza and Gegard Mousasi in a rematch of a fight they had in Dream a few years back, where Gegard Mousasi won the fight via upkick. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. We're going to start all the way down in the featherweight division. We have a fight which I was really looking forward to. It was Sean Soriano against Andre Fili. Big fan of Andre Fili. I'm a big fan of Sean Soriano as well. Literally just found out 10 minutes ago that Fili has had to pull out with an injury. So Chaz Skelly, who won last week in Oklahoma, steps in here and fights again. Soriano fights out the Black Zillions, a very good striker under Henry Hooft. We only seen him once in the UFC, and that was at a UFC event back in, I think it was January, Singapore. I could be wrong. Against Tatsuya Kawajiri, and he lost via submission. He got put to sleep in that fight against the veteran there. Chaz Skelly coming off a very impressive submission of Tom Ninimaki. I did think he would win. I didn't think he would stop him though. He was underdog in that fight. I made a good bit of money off Chaz Skelly, so that was good. This is a tougher fight, I think, for Sean Soriano. Skelly is really good when it goes to the ground, and he's very aggressive with his submissions. But I'm just going to side with Sean Soriano. I think he's just going to edge it in a split decision. Next up we have Tateki Matsuda against Chris Beal. Matsuda is 10-5. He fights out of Boston. I've seen him in a few of the CES MMA shows where Rob Font came from. He trains along with Rob Font. Chris Beal is coming off of this a knockout. Who was it against? It was a pretty spectacular flying knee. Was it Patrick Williams maybe? I think. Let me see. Patrick Williams, a flying knee at UFC 172. This guy was on the Ultimate Fighter a few years back on Ronda Rousey's team. Very dynamic striker, very athletic. Matsuda has never been knocked out before. He's out the his 5 losses, 4 have been by decision. I think this will be another decision loss. I think Chris Beal will get the nod here. Middleweight division, we have Rafael Natal against Chris Camozzi. Very close fight this. Natal, he's got the advantage when it goes to the ground. On his feet, he throws big shots, but he's very sloppy, and his striking defense isn't the best. Camozzi, I think he's coming off. Is he coming off a loss to? No, Jacare was a 1 back. In fact, he's lost his last 3. Very surprising he's still in the UFC. You don't really see many fighters with 3 losses. He lost to Jacare, lost to Lawrence Larkin, and he lost very disappointingly to Bruno Santos last time at UFC 175 in a horrible fight, one of the worst of the year. So he needs to win this fight. I am going to side with Rafael Natal. I just think he's very awkward. He's very tough, very gritty, and he's probably just going to have enough to maybe take Camozzi down. If Camozzi doesn't show anymore, he got taken down fairly easy against Bruno Santos. If Natal does that, there's probably a good chance Natal could stop the fight via submission, but I can see him getting the decision, so I'm going to go Rafael Natal by submission. Next up, we've got Al Iaquinta against Rodrigo Dam. Iaquinta, a guy coming out of Power MMA, Serra Longo team, very good fighter, a really top class guy. Little disappointed with his last performance. He lost to, let me see, off the top of my head, Mitch Clark by submission, and he actually was dominating that fight and got caught in a Darce choke and got put to sleep. Mitch Clark did nothing the whole fight, caught the submission, and I think he got a bonus that night, so he made himself a lot of moolah that night. Wins before that over Kevin Lee, Peter Hallman, Ryan Couture. A very good wrestler. His striking's coming on, but he's going to want to try and look to take the fight down, because Dam is very aggressive on his feet, and he throws a lot of kind of awkward strikes. But I've got Iaquinta in this fight. I think he will do it via decision. On to the main card. This main card's shit hot. When you look at it, for a fight night card, it's really good. We've got John Moraga against Justin Scoggins. Still a big fan of Justin Scoggins, even though he lost to Dustin Ortiz last time out. I'm a big fan of Dustin Ortiz as well. I think I just gave Scoggins that fight against Ortiz, but I think it was one of them close ones where it could have really went either way. I think the takedowns kind of won it for Dustin Ortiz. John Moraga, he is coming off a loss himself. John Dodson knocked him out back in Albuquerque. Before that, he beat Dustin Ortiz, which I think was quite a little bit controversial. And then he lost to Demetrius Johnson. This is going to be a close fight. It's going to go to decision. And I like... wow, this is a toss-up fight. I'm going to go Justin Scoggins by decision. Next up, we have Nick Lentz against Charles Oliveira in a rematch of their fight they had a few years back. Charles Oliveira's coming off the submission of the night win over Hatsu Hioki back in New Zealand. He caught him in a Peruvian necktie, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was such a nice submission. Before that, he beat Andy Ogle. He's not bad on his feet, Oliveira, but once this guy hits the ground, he's just a totally different level. Hioki is a top guy in the ground, and he put him to sleep, which I thought was very impressive. Last time he faced Nick Lentz, way back in 2011, I think he won the fight. He thought he won the fight, and then it got changed to a no contest because of an illegal knee. So Nick Lentz has come on leaps and bounds since that. I think he's in the top 10 of the featherweight division. He's coming off, he lost to Chad Mendes. He's coming off a win over Manny Gamburian. Wins before that over Hakran Diaz, Diego Nunes, Mitsuyoka. So the guy, and he's starting to throw more, and he looks dangerous when doing so because he's a top wrestler. And if you make that slight mistake, he will take you to the ground. But Oliveira was hurting Lentz the first time, and I don't see any difference here. So I'm going to go Charles Oliveira. I think he can submit him again, so I'm going to go submission. Next up, we have Joe Lozon against Michael Chiesa. Two submission guys here. Joe Lozon is by far the better on the feet, and I fully think that Joe Lozon will clock Michael Chiesa at some point and get the victory. I think he can knock him out. TKO, I'm going to go Joe Lozon, but this is a big fight for Michael Chiesa. He's kind of stepping up into the next branch of fighters, and Joe Lozon is a good kind of line test to see how good you are, because he's fought a lot of good guys, he's beat good guys, and he's had scraps with the top guys in the division. So big fight for Michael Chiesa. I just think Joe Lozon is going to win the fight. I'm going to go TKO second round. We've got the heavyweights next. We've got Matt Mitrione against Derek Lewis. Matt Mitrione was supposed to face Stefan Struve, UFC 175 I believe it was, and that fight got pulled literally an hour before they were supposed to fight. Struve had some health problems and had to step out of the fight. Seen the vlog this week. It was sad to see Stefan Struve, but you've seen how good a guy Matt Mitrione is in that. Derek Lewis, this guy's deadly. You don't want to stand with this guy. I thoroughly believe he's going to catch Matt Mitrione and he's going to knock out Mitrione. Lewis is just he's just huge guy, and if you see the size of his fists, absolutely massive. He's coming off a knockout at Guto at Asenchi. Jacare before that. I just can see him knocking out Matt Mitrione here. He's been knocked out before, and I think he'll do it again. So I'm going to go Derek Lewis by knockout in the first round. Co-main event is the turn of the Reem, Alistair Overeem. Not his biggest fan. He's at Jackson Winklejohn's now in Albuquerque. Don't really want to get into too much with Alistair Overeem. I'm not a big fan. Top striker. And he's got a fairly decent fight here. He's got Ben Rothwell, who's coming off a suspension. I believe UFC 164, I think it was, in Milwaukee the last time he fought. He won that fight. Who was it against again? Can't remember. You have to apologise. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm not long finished work, so I'm absolutely exhausted, but I thought I'd get it out. Brandon Vera. Not saying much there. Alistair Overeem, I think he'll knock him out. So I'm going to go Alistair Overeem by knockout in the second. And on to the main event of the night. We've got Jacare Souza against Gegard Mousasi in a middleweight clash. Whoever wins this fight is going to move himself right up the ladder to face to get close to that title. Jacare, if he wins this fight, he's right up there. Would probably look rock cold for that next title shot. So this is a big fight for him. This is also a big fight for Gegard Mousasi. He fought Machida. Didn't do too much wrong. Just Machida was just elusive. Had a really good game plan and won the fight. He's coming off a win over Mark Munoz. UFC Fight Night in Berlin in the main event there. He caught him in a nice rear naked choke and put him to sleep. As I say, the loss before that was to Machida. But he has a win over Jacare Souza. Way back, I think it was Dream 6. I could be wrong. 4 or 6. It was one of them. I've watched the fight a few times. They both went to the ground. Mousasi caught him with a beautiful up kick and put him to sleep. This is a very close fight. I tipping towards Mousasi, I think, but I'm going to go Jacare by a very close split decision. So that's my picks for UFC Fight Night 50. Come follow me on Twitter at BillBlubber7MMA. There's a few guys now you should be following as well. MMA Fan Michael, Dicker410, guys, really good guys in the sport, especially the guys. They're really good, and there's a lot of other ones there as well. I could go on all night telling you about the good guys on Twitter. Also go follow Kingdom MMA. Anything about MMA, they'll have news on it as well. So especially over here in Europe, if you're a European fan, you need to be following the guys for European MMA news. So I will be back next week for UFC Fight Night 51. Bigfoot against Andrei Arlovski from Brazil. Not a bad card, some decent fights on there, so I'll be back next week. Enjoy the fight card if you're watching UFC 177 tomorrow and next week from Connecticut. Take care and we'll see you later.